Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a serious topic, and I want to reveal a recent decision that I made with my portfolio, and I have to admit, this makes me sad to do this video. When I sold my Tesla stock, it made me sad, but in retrospect, I'm confident in the decision that I've made. Before you make the assumption that I've gone bearish on Tesla, let me just tell you right now, that is definitely not the case. This is more of a decision that is really nuanced in terms of my personal position and my conviction in something as well. We'll be talking about that also, but I want to say this right here and now that this decision had nothing to do with what Tesla is doing as a company right now, because I think they are on the perfect track. I've seen recently where they're continuing to lower the cost on their vehicles, and they're also continually improving with the FSD beta as well. Some people may view that part about them lowering costs with the vehicles as a bad thing, but in my opinion, it's a genius move because I see exactly what they're doing. Even if they lose out on some profit margins in the meantime, what they're really aiming for with reducing the cost is, for one thing, making the product affordable for more people. And what does that do? That builds brand loyalty. That gets more people familiar with the Tesla platform, and that also enables more of a consumer base for the FSD. For one thing, it makes people have a little bit extra money to use towards FSD, and it also gets people on the Tesla platform that may not have been otherwise able to because of those lower costs, and then they get familiar with FSD and they may consider buying that as well. Decreasing the cost on their vehicles just increases the likelihood of them getting a larger market share in the EV market, and like I said, the long-term play here is the software. That's going to be Tesla's bulk of the revenue in the future. FSD, infotainment, things like that. I just wanted to emphasize that first thing off, I'm a huge Tesla bull, and I will continue to be because I love this company. I think they will be the most significant company in the years to come and in the decades to come, especially as we get further down the line with AI and deep learning and things like that. I'll say this here and now, I actually removed it from a previous video and I should have just left it in, and some people may call me crazy for this, but I think Tesla will eventually be a $10 trillion company in market cap when it comes to all of their vehicle sales, all of their software sales, battery sales. That AI and deep learning is going to be a huge factor, and FSD is going to be a huge factor as well. But getting more onto the nuanced decision of me deciding to sell my Tesla stock, like I said, this is something that I had never expected to do anytime soon in the future with Tesla. Another thing as well, I'll say this also, I would not sell Tesla stock for another stock in the market. There's no way that I would be selling this stock right now for just some other stock in the market. I still think even with the premium, it's the best option out there in terms of that long-term vision and that clear roadmap. But I've actually sold this for something that is not a stock, and it is something that I think could potentially 100 times in the future, even though it has already gone up significantly over the past couple of weeks and like the past 2 months especially, which is Bitcoin. And I've talked about this in previous videos. I really think that this can 100 times, and this gets back onto the nuance with this decision. If we take a look at Tesla right now, its market cap is around $750 billion, and let's just assume it goes up to $1 trillion. At that point, if it 10 times from there at that $1 trillion mark, that means it has reached $10 trillion. But I think that will be many years from now in the future potentially. And with Bitcoin, I'm looking for those larger gains, not just a 10 times, but I'm looking for a 20 times, 30 times, maybe even 100 times. But as I said, it has gone up recently, so only time will tell with that. Another thing on top of this as well, I started buying Bitcoin on December 16th, and since then, I've been heavily dollar cost averaging into it. And as of recently, before I sold my Tesla stock, I was borrowing like 30, 40K on margin, and I got to the point where I was like $80,000 deep on margin, and that was when I decided to sell and trim my position because I had borrowed around $25,000 back when it was $587 per share when they announced S&P 500 inclusion, and I made a nice gain on top of that. So I thought, you know what, I'll go ahead and cover that $25,000 that I borrowed. Just to show you all that transaction right here, this was when I first started selling these shares. That was to cover that $25,000 that I borrowed on margin when I was like 80K deep. I didn't want to get margin called, but as it says, 30 shares at $795.72. That was around $24,000 in total. And then the next day is when I decided to just go ahead and sell it all, and I sold around $319,000 worth of Tesla stock, around 415 shares at $768. So I sold this one at a little bit more of a lower point. We'll get back onto Bitcoin in a second, but this was an aspect of this nuance as well. But like I said, I was around like $30,000 deep at one point after I borrowed that 25K. It got up to 30, and then I started borrowing some to get Bitcoin, and that was like, I think, January and February. So that continued to grow in terms of the margin. So I wanted to cover just a little bit of that because I didn't want to get margin called and then have to sell Tesla stock at the absolute low. So that was another nuanced part of this whole decision because I didn't want to get margin called at Tesla's lowest point. It would be a shame if Tesla dropped significantly in the short term and I ended up having to sell the shares at a price comparable to when I first started buying it last year. And another thing on top of that was I had my long-term capital gains that had just recently passed. I think the first couple of shares I bought were early February, so that's another reason why I sold that $24,000 in shares, because that was basically all that I had that qualified for the long-term capital gains at that point. And that's another thing about this decision is that I ended up having to take a hit on short-term capital gains. So I'm going to be paying my normal tax rate on everything that was sold aside from that $24,000. So that's another thing as well. And I took that into consideration also, but I still think even factoring in, I think I'm going to have to pay like over $70,000 in taxes on this. Even with those taxes taken out of my profits, I still think Bitcoin is going to perform exceptionally well. And I'm hoping that this position and this decision plays out well for me in the future, but I'm also hoping that Tesla continues to be successful, and I expect them to do so. But I wanted to just touch on a few of the different reasons as to why I made this decision. The main reason was just simply because I see a lot of opportunity in Bitcoin, not only 10 timesing in the future, but potentially a 20 times and maybe even 100 times. I actually think 100 times is still possible and potentially inevitable if people start to wake up and if we see big institutions buying Bitcoin like Tesla did. And I think Tesla will continue to buy Bitcoin in the future. We've already had people like Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, I think, issuing debt for Bitcoin at like a 0% interest rate until like 2027. I could be wrong on that part, but basically he's just buying as much as he can right now. And that's how I feel about Bitcoin. I sold Tesla stock when it was around like $48,000, $49,000 per Bitcoin. And at that point in time, I was basically just looking at the price thinking, please don't go up significantly. I want to get a hold of this and buy a bunch before it starts to go up because I know it's inevitable. And as you all can see from the price recently, it's currently at $56,000. Elon Musk just changed his profile picture to a Bitcoin meme, and it's just continuing to go up. So far, this decision has turned out well for me because I'm already up like 10 to 15% on some of these positions that I've taken in Bitcoin. The only issue right now is that Robinhood limits me on a 50K withdrawal per day. And then the exchange that I use, which is Coinbase, they only let me put in $25,000 per day. So you can already assume right now I'm kind of panicking because I'm thinking, please let me just deposit all of this money and buy my Bitcoin before it just absolutely skyrockets. I still think even at this price tag right here, 56,000 is cheap for Bitcoin. And that's another thing as well. In the stock market right now, a lot of the stocks are overvalued. People that understand Tesla, we all know there is a premium attached to that stock. People are paying that premium for its almost inevitable performance in the future, and in my opinion, that's justifiably so. Like I said, I would not be selling Tesla stock for any other stock in the market right now, and the only reason I decided to sell Tesla stock for Bitcoin is because I think it can 100 times in the future, and I just simply support the vision. It is disrupting our whole monetary system. And that is like the biggest thing that you can disrupt when you really think about it. Even Tesla, at the end of the day, it relies on our typical monetary system. That just puts it all into perspective on how huge this disruption can be in the future. And I think Elon Musk realizes this as well, or he wouldn't be putting $1.5 billion into it. And he's already made almost double what he put in. Another thing as well, this doesn't mean that I won't be buying Tesla stock in the future. That's definitely a possibility, and I don't mind paying a higher price than what I sold it for. That's not going to be like a mental block for me because I just know Tesla is a great company, and how could you go wrong buying it? Keep in mind, anything that I see in this video is not to be considered financial advice, but like I said, the main reason that I decided to sell Tesla stock for Bitcoin is just I think there's so much upside potential with this one, and that's the thing with Tesla stock. I got in a little bit late, and there's people that own it currently that have already like times 10, times 20 their money. Unfortunately, I wasn't even really aware of the stock market or Tesla or anything like that until late 2019, so I wasn't able to get that absolutely outsized return on Tesla, and that's what I'm looking for right now. My issue currently is that I'm not someone that makes like 100K, 200K a year, so I really have to make my money work for me. It's not like I can just say, okay, I'll keep my Tesla position and then I'll go ahead and put in 100K in Bitcoin or 200K in Bitcoin. I have to sell my position to put in that significant of an amount in Bitcoin And the issue with me taking on margin was I could only take around 100K max, and then I would kind of be in trouble on holding Tesla stock because I would be afraid of a margin call and having to sell at the lowest point possible. I just realized that the only way that I was going to have a significant position in Bitcoin and own multiple Bitcoin was for me to sell my Tesla stock to hold a lot of Bitcoin. And eventually in the future, I think it's going to be very difficult for people to just own one Bitcoin, and I want to make sure that I can get a few while it's still cheap, in my opinion. Like I said though, that was another issue with margin. Even if I borrowed 100K, it would put me in a bad position on holding Tesla, and it would also not give me what I wanted to put into Bitcoin. I want to put in more than 100K in Bitcoin. On top of this as well, I'm seriously looking to buy a house in the future. It's just going to be essential for me to continue being able to do YouTube. It's very hard to record. That's some of the reason as to why I haven't been able to record lately, because sometimes it can be difficult to find a good time to record or just be on your own schedule and not have a lot of noise around me when I'm recording videos. And then I also have some other business ideas that just simply require me having my own place. Plus, it's something that I just simply want to have in the future. I've said in past videos on this channel that my goal was to have $1 million in my portfolio by the time that I'm 30, or if that wasn't the case, another goal would be for me to have maybe close to $1 million, but at the same time own a house as well. Getting right back onto Bitcoin, another thing that I noticed with this one in terms of opportunity, I think that a lot of the institutional investors have been late on Bitcoin. The retail investors are really the ones that were on top of this, just like with Tesla stock, but institutional investors still need to flow into this one, and that's where the big money comes. Retail investors can have a significant impact, but when it comes to that big money that starts flowing in from institutional investors, that's where the price can tremendously go up, and that's a lot of opportunity that I see in the future in terms of us maybe getting to that 100 times value from where it's at right now. In addition, I noticed that there's a lot of Tesla stock investors who I usually consider as some of the smartest people in the market because they were able to realize the potential in the company, especially the ones that had a position early on before it started to surge in 2020 and things like that. I've noticed a lot of them talking about Bitcoin, but some of them haven't really emphasized the desire to own Bitcoin anytime soon in the future. And with that, I kind of see potential because, like I said, I view these people as some of the smartest ones in the market. Tesla investors are just a different breed. And when I see them not taking advantage of buying Bitcoin, which is what I believe is a very undervalued asset right now, then that's where I see potential opportunity in the market, because I think, okay, if these guys don't understand what's happening with Bitcoin or they're not interested in purchasing it, then what is the rest of the market doing right now as well? And that's where I find opportunity. So this whole decision of me selling all the Tesla stock in this Robinhood portfolio, the reason that I chose to do this was because I see a lot of opportunity in Bitcoin, potentially a higher upside in terms of percentage gain. That's really the main point at the end of the day. And then also there was some nuance to this as well. I was like 80K deep on margin. I covered it a little bit, but I didn't want to wait until like May where I could sell with long-term capital gains tax and potentially miss out on Bitcoin's run up, which we've already seen it go up significantly over the past couple of days. And then Tesla stock in the meantime, there could be that possibility that it falls and I'm on margin significantly, so I could get margin called, have to sell at a low point. So there was that possibility of it being a bad situation if I waited for that long-term capital gains date in May, in which Bitcoin could go up, and if Tesla stock dropped down, I could get margin called. And I also just took into consideration, if I go ahead and take this short-term capital gains tax hit right now, is it going to still pay off for me more than that tax hit in the future if I just invest the remainder into Bitcoin? And with that in consideration, you all know that I do not like having to sell because it does trigger that taxable event, but I went ahead and took the hit, and it really hurt to take that short-term capital gains tax hit because I really wanted to wait, but I have too much conviction in Bitcoin to just wait around and watch it go up and basically tell myself, I told you so, why don't you just act on your gut instinct? So this is just another one of those things where I'm acting on my gut instinct, and I had to have the cojones to actually make the move, even though it really hurts me to sell my Tesla stock because I love this company. I think it's going to do amazing things in the future. I think it's going to be one of the best performing stocks in the market in the years to come, but I just see so much opportunity with Bitcoin, and it's just a scenario that fit well for me to go ahead and make this decision. But at the end of the day, it takes me being bold to act on this decision, and that's exactly what I decided to do so. And I just wanted to keep it real with you all as usual. I know some of you are probably going to be sad that I sold my Tesla stock. I am too, but hopefully we'll see this play out in the future, and I hope it turns out well for me. But this is certainly not a bearish video on Tesla. Like I said, I think it will 10 times in the future, but I just think Bitcoin has insane upside potential. That's why I wanted to go ahead and put out this video. I thought about waiting a little bit longer, but I might as well just get this video over with and also explain my decision making with Bitcoin right now and get you in the loop on that if you're interested as well. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Tesla stock has a really nice discount right now with a recent dip. So for those of you that are looking for opportunities opportunities, this is certainly a good time. As usual, feel free to check out my referral links in the description below, in which you can get some free money in different ways, like free stocks, free Bitcoin, things like that. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great weekend.